The underside of the flying saucer glowed blue and made a soft, hissing sound. It silently lifted off the ground. There was no jet engine, no exhaust, no propellers, no noise. In May 1989, an anonymous man appeared on a Las Vegas TV broadcast under the pseudonym Dennis. What he revealed was not just science fiction or a movie plot. It was an explosive disclosure. He claimed he had worked at a site called S4, south of Area 51 at the Nellis Air Force Base, where he studied alien technology. An incredible story few could believe. The man behind the name Dennis was actually Robert Scott Lazar, better known as Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar claimed he was a former scientist at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, secretly involved in research on unidentified flying objects at Area 51. In interviews, he described exactly what he experienced there. At the time, Lazar said he landed the job through the recommendation of Dr. Edward Teller, a professor at MIT where Bob was taking classes. The company that interviewed him was called EG&G, an organization so obscure that its exact operations were unknown to the public. After passing the interview, Bob reported directly to the secret underground base at Area 51. The underground site where he worked was like a hidden fortress. To access it, he had to go through intense security checks. To enter the S4 site, you had to pass through a scanner that read your hands and bones inside. You'd place your hand, and a light would measure the precise length and shape of each finger. Excerpt from Bob Lazar's 1989 interview. This place, simply called Sector 4, was heavily guarded, and only verified identities could cross into the research area. Bob described the hand scanner as a biometric device, a level of technology unheard of at the time. Incredibly, Bob's main assignment in this high-security underground base was to disassemble and reverse engineer alien spacecraft. He mainly studied how these spacecrafts operated and what fuel powered them. He said the spacecrafts worked on principles that defied contemporary science, impossible to fully define back then. Bob claimed this was advanced technology not of this Earth. On Earth, all vehicles rely on combustion and exhaust for propulsion, generating thrust through burning fuel. But the spacecraft Bob worked on didn't move that way at all. This was a craft with no reactionary propulsion. Simply put, the craft would bend space-time in the direction it wanted to go. Literally, space would warp. It's like placing a bowling ball in the middle of a bed. If you press down near it with your fist, the ball rolls towards the dent. That's how it moved, by distorting space-time to fall in that direction. This is the core of alien technology. Bob said he couldn't explain it in more detail, because it couldn't be fully replicated or analyzed using the physics and chemistry we know. He also revealed that the craft's fuel included an element never before discovered, element 115. At the time, only 109 elements were officially known. Bob described element 115 in detail: extremely heavy, impossible to synthesize artificially on Earth, and likely originating from another planet. He claimed element 115 was the key fuel for these crafts, and said he even conducted experiments using it while working at S4. One of these was a cloud chamber experiment. On the surface, just a routine radiation test. But during the experiment, Bob witnessed a beam of light bending, something that should be impossible in any known Earth-based experiment. He believed this bending light demonstrated how the craft could distort space using element 115. Bob also claimed he once saw a small humanoid being at the base, no taller than his waist. Other staff referred to them as kids, and he glimpsed them sitting inside a room, apparently being measured for height and size. Every encounter with these beings filled him with fear. Seeing his distress, the research facility later deemed him unfit for duty and dismissed him in 1990. After leaving, Bob said he was repeatedly threatened by unidentified people, warning him, "Keep your mouth shut or you won't stay alive." After narrowly surviving these threats, he decided he had to tell the world the truth. When asked why he risked revealing everything despite the threats, Bob said, "This is the only way I can stay alive." He added that he had to speak out because someone was slowly erasing every trace of him. George Knapp, the renowned journalist and producer who first interviewed Bob, was deeply intrigued and launched his own investigation. He soon found that Bob's story didn't quite add up in certain places. Bob claimed to have earned a master's degree in physics from MIT, and another in electronics from Caltech. But at both schools, there were no records of a Bob Lazar or Robert Scott Lazar. George tried verifying Bob's record at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, but there too, no trace of him could be found. Even EG&G, the company that interviewed him on Dr. Teller's recommendation, denied ever knowing him. But as George dug deeper, he found something odd. Bob Lazar's name did appear in an old Los Alamos phone book. Even more compelling, a 1982 newspaper article about the Los Alamos Mason Physics Facility mentioned him by name. To Lazar, a physicist at the Los Alamos Mason Physics Facility, the important thing is the jet engine. It's something he's been working on for years. This was clear evidence that Bob had indeed worked there. Yet aside from a few pieces like this, almost every other record of his education and employment had seemingly vanished. George thought this was strange. If no one had tried to erase Bob's past, why would the traces be so fragmented? He dug into EG&G as well. Contrary to its public image as just a contractor, it turned out to be a company that recruited special personnel for covert weapons and research during the Cold War, deeply linked to classified government projects. To uncover more, George even used hypnosis to help Bob recover forgotten memories. Under hypnosis, Bob recalled remarkable details and redrew the spacecraft he'd studied with striking accuracy. Still, most scientists dismissed Bob as a fraud or delusional. They argued it was impossible for the government to hide such a massive project. They pointed to his unverifiable academic record as proof. He was just a conspiracy theorist. But in 2004, an unexpected discovery shifted opinions. On February 1st, the New York Times reported the discovery of a new element. Element 115, officially named moscovium, a highly radioactive, man-made element that does not naturally occur on Earth. Its detailed properties were not disclosed, and no known applications existed. Strangely, the lab that discovered moscovium reportedly consulted Bob Lazar for academic advice. While details remain secret, some speculated that moscovium could be exactly what Bob described as the UFO propulsion fuel. Could moscovium really be the same element 115 Bob talked about? Then on August 15, 2013, the CIA declassified secret documents, acknowledging the existence of Area 51 for the first time. Area 51 at the Nellis Air Force Base was a facility used during the Cold War to test and develop military weapons. The CIA admitted that Area 51 existed, but claimed it was only for testing advanced Air Force aircraft, not alien spacecraft. However, many people didn't believe the full story. Some mystics insisted that what was really researched there remains hidden. Later, the CIA revealed a piece of the stealth program, a biometric scanner used to verify the identities of Area 51 workers. What stunned people was that this scanner looked identical to the hand scanner Bob Lazar had described decades earlier at S4. The more official documents were revealed about Area 51, the more questions people had about Bob Lazar. Many of the facts he mentioned could not have been known unless he really did work there, long before the CIA ever confirmed them. 30 years after his first bombshell interview, a documentary about Bob Lazar was released in 2018. He said life hadn't been easy since 1989. Even so, he still insisted everything he saw and experienced was undeniably real. Alien civilizations exist. That is the simple truth. In the documentary, many asked if he could be trusted when his academic record was fake. But his supporters pointed out that his claims had stayed consistent for decades, that certain released documents matched his stories, that Element 115 was indeed discovered, and that traces of Bob's past still remain. They argued he had no reason to deceive everyone in his life for so long. Bob never gained fame or wealth. If anything, he lived like a man on the run. Prove me wrong if you can. I'm just telling the facts as they are. Near the end of the documentary, the interviewer asked Bob a secretive question. Had he ever personally smuggled Element 115 out of the Los Alamos lab? Bob hesitated, but the answer was never aired. I don't know how closely they still watch me. Maybe after all these years they've stopped. But the very next day, the FBI raided Bob Lazar's house. They surrounded me immediately. They asked if I was Bob Lazar. When I said yes, they looked like they were deciding whether to tear the place apart. In moments, cars filled the street, and the building was swarming with people. I think there were state police and special agents. They claimed they were there to find an old customer order for toxic materials from 2 years prior. Bob questioned why the FBI and multiple task forces would show up for something so trivial. He said this wasn't even the first time his house had been raided. They brought forensic teams, biohazard units, state police. They opened every computer and searched the entire building, meter by meter. All for one old order form. I think they were looking for something else. So, did Bob Lazar really witness secrets of alien technology? If all of this were a lie, why is the world still watching him 3 decades later? There is an advanced unknown technology out there. But if I could go back, I wouldn't say a word. Not a single word. This was Midnight Journey.